Well, hello, everybody. Or maybe I'm not mic'd. Am I mic'd? Am I live? Excellent. Excellent. So, what is the role of local government in helping shape Greater Washington's future? How can regional governments work together and in partnership with the private sector to make Greater Washington even greater? Our next panel this morning will answer all of these questions and much, much more, I'm sure. So let me introduce them. We have the Mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser. She is committed to maintaining the district as a hub for innovation.
Absolutely.
And would you please welcome the Mayor of Washington, D.C., the Honorable Muriel Bowser. We have Bill Ewell, the Mayor of Alexandria. He is also the current chairman of the Metro Washington Council of Governments. Mayor, great to have you with us this morning. A round of applause for the Mayor of Alexandria. And County Executive Rashawn Baker, great to see you. He is the County Executive in Maryland, in the County Executive of Maryland, in Prince George's County, excuse me. Rashawn, great to have you here. Sorry.
Good to be here. Not a problem.
All right, so this first question is for all of you, but we're going to start with the mayor. So, you know, in places like Atlanta and San Diego and Toronto, it was the private sector that took the lead in creating a global trade strategy. And then elected officials supported the effort. What do you think the role is for the private sector and the government in economic development? How do they work together, Mayor?
Well, we work very hard with our private sector partners.
Sure.
I think one thing that we all know is that the government doesn't build retail or housing or the things that people want that make cities great.
Sure.
So we look forward to working with responsible development partners and people in business to enhance all the things that we do. I think we've had a wonderful example of how the private sector can come together to bring a region together with our efforts to win the Olympic bid. And while we didn't get it this time, I think that we saw people that came together from around the region, business leaders that brought and engaged the public sector along.
Feel good about 2028?
Well, I feel good about the effort that we put together. And I feel good that not only would it focus on sport, but it would help us and speed up investments and things that we've been wanting to do in Washington, D.C. for a long time, and that there were wins for the entire region.
Mayor Ewell, I want to hear your thoughts on this. How the private sector and government can work together.
I agree with what the mayor just said, and certainly in any community or municipality, we rely on the business community to actually be engaged with local government to get the job done, to be representative of the concerns of the community, and to be a collaborative partner as well. And so I think having organizations, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce or the Board of Trades, their voices are very vital and essential and necessary to the success in terms of what we accomplish, how we do things in terms of economic development, but also, you know, the real intent here is it's the opportunity to diversify our revenues so we can reduce reliance on real estate taxes, particularly for residential, and bring in more commercial. But we have to also be cognizant of the fact that a lot of this can't just happen in a vacuum in terms of on a local level. It has to be not only regionalized with local governments coming together to team up, like the conversation we had at the recent COG Board annual retreat in July, when the whole topic, and the mayor participated in that, and both my colleagues, and the discussion on regionalism. But we're in a global economy today, and so we need to be looking at things more holistically and broadly. And we take examples of one or two institutions that we may have already, like in Alexandria, we have the U.S. Patent and Trademark Headquarters, fortunately for us, and that is an international vehicle. And so when folks look at Alexandria, they look at PTO.
The last word on the first question goes to you, County Executive Baker.
Everything has been said.
Said.
But no, I agree with what my colleagues have said. For us in the county, it was interesting. When I became county executive, we had this long debate as to whether we would take our economic development. We have a Office of Economic Development that's private. It's quasi-private. We fund it and bring it into the government. did we want to mesh those two things together? And after we started talking to the business community, we decided, no, we want to keep it in the private sector because we want the business community, which is going to create most of the jobs that we have. And if you're going to grow your commercial tax base, you need the business community working together. And so with our Department of Economic Development under James Coleman, we keep it in the private sector, but we also make sure we're doing public-private partnerships. So you're seeing that with our stormwater management. You're going to see that with the Purple Line. So it's really working hand in hand with the business community to make sure that we create these jobs. Last thing I'll say is understanding that you have to work and you have to work with the business community to create those jobs. It's how can we make sure government gets out of the way? And that was what we did when we created our Department of Permits, Inspection, and Enforcement, so that you could have the one-stop shopping in terms of permitting. And we think that's an important tool that we play in government to spur economic development.
So I want to start with you on the next question because I'd be interested to get your take on how you would feel about the creation of an empowered, truly empowered regional economic development organization.
You know, that's interesting. In theory, it sounds great. I think one of the things that I think we'll all agree on this, one of the things that we've learned since taking these jobs is your economic development in Washington region is dependent upon Washington, D.C. It is. It's the center. And so for us in the county, as we go out and we try and get businesses located here, it depends on, that we're right next to the nation's capital, as my good friend Wayne Curry used to say, Rome. So in order for all of us to grow, we really have to do it in tandem. Sure. And having an organization that understands that, and I think you're starting to see, as Mary Ewell said, it's done with COG, it's done with the Board of Trade, it's done with our business organization. But having one that's really empowered would be an intriguing idea.
Mayor Bowser, if the strength of the region is Washington, D.C., how would you feel if there was a truly empowered organization focused on regional economic development?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I think we have a number of organizations that span the region that we can support more robustly in a lot of ways. We can look to them for leadership and helping bring all parties to the table on issues that we know span our borders, starting with Metro.
Right.
We can come together as jurisdictions to make sure that Metro has the dedicated funding
Sure.
that it needs. And then what we have tried to do, and what we have certainly worked with County Executive Baker on and County Executive Leggett, are some other issues that we know are big and we can come together on, like homelessness, like public safety, like traffic. And I think that what we so enjoyed about Washington 2024 is that we had a very positive thing to focus on that spurred economic development. So I would be willing to look at any and all suggestions that would help us put brand the region as a whole and work more cooperatively together around economic development.
So Mary, I want to follow up on that because you hear a lot about international efforts to attract investment and jobs here, and you're getting set to go to China
Yep.
on Saturday. Can you talk about what the hope for outcomes are of that trip?
Well, we are, and part of our trip to China has a regional focus because we'll be working with, taking with us the Greater Washington, or they're going to be there with us. I see Jim Dineker in the room from the Greater Washington Board of Trade, and of course, many business leaders who have business interests all around the region will be a part of our delegation. I know the county executive only recently got back, right. And that has been the focus for us all. And it came really clear to me earlier this year. We partnered with the Commonwealth of Virginia to host foreign investors at a joint event. So we knew then that we need the foreign investment dollars no matter where it goes in the region. So we'll be talking about some specific projects in Washington, D.C., but when I'm able to go there, and some of these investments will be a perfect match for something happening in D.C., and others will be a perfect match for one of the surrounding jurisdictions. But it is true, if we can go around the world and talk about Washington, D.C., and how strong our city is, we know that it has an impact on the greater region.
Mayor Ewell, I'd like to ask you, in Alexandria, you have used the private and public sector partnership path to achieve your goals around economic development. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, a lot of what we've done, I mean, for instance, one of the things in my role as mayor, what I do is on at least two, maybe three times a month on a Thursday, we go out and meet with not only our existing businesses that have been in the city a while, but new businesses that have come in. And the purpose of that, it's called the Mayor's Local Business Outreach, is to really have a direct relationship with the business community to let them know not only is government interested in knowing how well things are working or not working for you, but what else is we can do to help your business grow and expand, what are your growing pains, and we take representatives from our Economic Development Partnership with us as well. But it's also an opportunity that we advance in terms of trying to attract businesses to our historic city to know what challenges that they're confronting. As Executive Baker said, government needs to get out of the way to allow a lot of these businesses to grow and expand and come to our metropolitan areas. But to piggyback on the mayor's trip, I had an opportunity. We're a small pea in a pot, so we don't have the luxury of being able to travel all over the world, but to market Alexandria. But I have, through our sister city relations, to our sister cities either in Scotland or Germany or Sweden, traveled there. But through other organizations, I've gone to Turkey, I've gone to Taiwan, gone to Saudi Arabia. But when you're in these countries, they're very keen to know a lot about what opportunities exist back here in the States for them, and in my own small city. But I think what will happen, the benefit of others going on these international missions, I ascribe to the theme that high tides lift all boats. If you can come back with something that benefits Washington, the rest of the region benefits as well, just like the casino that's being built in the MGM Grand in Prince George's County, that is a huge thing for the region.
I'd like to ask all three of you, and I'm going to start with you, Mayor Bowser.
Yeah.
So, how do we get the business community? I mean, there's so many great companies here in our region, but a lot of them aren't headquartered here. How do we get the business community engaged in economic development efforts if in many cases the company's not headquartered here?
Well, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that the region is a good place to do business and that we have a great reputation as a good place to do business. And speaking just for us, we haven't always had a great reputation for a place to do business. And so I see that changing, but I also see it as my responsibility to make sure that I'm spreading the word. We actually have a goal to attract Fortune 500 companies to Washington, D.C. as the headquarters. I negotiated an agreement that's before a Public Service Commission now that would co-locate a very large company in Washington, D.C. And the attention that has gotten in the business circles around the country has been pretty significant. I also think that we're in a position, because we've been focused on having more fair taxes for all of our people, but also our businesses.
Sure.
We have been very focused on making sure our regulations, as the county executive mentioned, permits and regulations is an important part of doing business. Some people think that we should look at a regional way to do that, so we're spreading that word. But I'm actually picking up the phone and calling companies to make sure they know about the good things that are happening in Washington. I had the experience, a big company, I won't say which one, but they were complaining, just really complaining about the taxes going up in their state. And I had the experience, probably unlike any mayor of the District of Columbia before me, to be able to call up that company and say, we're lowering our taxes here. And so if you're thinking about moving your business, you're looking for a new headquarters, I have to introduce you to some projects in Washington.
Mayor Ewell?
Yeah, I think what we always should be doing to attract these Fortune 500 or any type of business to this region is to be promoting and marketing and talking about our own successes. One, we have a very educated workforce. We have job opportunities.
Right.
We have, yes, we do indeed have the federal government here, but it's shrinking, albeit. But nonetheless, it is the hub of the nation's capital. In addition to that, we need to be talking about the diversity that we cherish here with the ethnicity within the population, our population, and the fact that. That we have a high quality of life. We have millennials that live here. We have lots of assets and lots of talents that can be very valuable to them. But more importantly, we have the infrastructure. We have the infrastructure in terms of our transit system. We have the road connectivities and so forth. And I just think all these things are very important in terms of being attractive.
Last word on this question, County Executive.
No, I think Mayor Ewell, I mean, he and Mayor Bowser hit all the points, and that is, I mean, the things that businesses are going to look to either relocate here, their headquarters, or expand. First thing is quality of life. They're going to look at the education system, both higher education, but also K through 12 in the region, which is very important. They're going to look at public safety. And they're going to look at cost of doing business, which is not just the taxes. It's, you know, the permitting process, how long it takes you to build this, to invest in it, to build the buildings, things like that. So we have to do all of those as a region and sell ourselves. Then you have to do, as Mayor Bowser said, and this is something that we've tried to do since I've become county executive, and that's the personal touch. So we've said to our companies and to our developers who are trying to attract businesses here, let us know where they are. You know, if you want, we'll get on a plane with you and go there and sell them on why they should come to Prince George's County. We're a partner with you to grow it because we want you to grow. We want them to come here because they'll hire folks from our region. And that's the idea. But it's that personal touch along with the other things.
So I know we have a lot of folks in the room who are not from here. In 10 words or less, in 10 words or less, this is like if you're playing along at home, 10 words or less. What is the one economic development goal that we could achieve in the next 12 months if we were to work collaboratively? 10 words or less. I'm going to start with you, Mayor Bowser.
Great, gives us time to think.
Create jobs for people who are underemployed or unemployed to increase wages.
You get a free subscription to the Washington Business
Okay.
Journal. You did it, Mayor Bowser. Mayor Ewell.
I agree with her, but no. Again, I look at the assets that we have here, and probably second to none in terms of the brain trust that's here, the diversity, the fact that you can travel within the DMV and not know that you're outside of the district versus Alexandria versus Prince George's County because of the connectivity and the road system, type of road system that we have. So I think that's really one of the positive attractiveness for businesses wanting to come here.
In 10 words or less, County Executive Baker.
Since they gave all the great answers, I'll just throw one out there. I think we have a real opportunity to become the cybersecurity capital, and that makes us competitive with the other regions that are going after that. And so I would say that.
I want to make sure we have time to take some questions from the audience. And so if you have a question, the gentleman at the back, right there, yes. If you could stand up and identify who you are and where you're from.
Sure. My name is Tom Fairchild. I'm with a new group called City Version 3. We're advisors for new urban development, City Version 3. And my question is, there's a lot of talk about Metro's dysfunction, but of course one of the dysfunctions is the lack of funding, the underfunding that's been going on for a long time. It's been the catalyst for growth, for economic development. I would guess as you go out and visit CEOs around the country, around the world, they don't say, gee, we want to be located next to a beltway interchange, but rather next to a metro station. How can we get beyond the underfunding issues of Metro?
How can we get beyond the underfunding issues of Metro?
Yeah, the chronic underfunding of
Chronic
Metro.
underfunding.
How can we regionally approach the funding issues that have plagued our major economic driver.
Is this for the whole panel, by the way? Is this
Sure.
for everybody?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're probably directing a question at me because I serve on the Metro Board, senior most member.
And you're from Virginia.
And from Virginia. Senior most member, 14 years. I've been trying to get off the board now, and I am off after Tuesday's election. So, no, you're absolutely right. Metro needs a dedicated funding source, and that everybody knows that. I mean, I give credit to the group 2030. I see some representatives here, and now there's an offshoot group that's called Roadmap. And the one thing that we've all been talking about is the fact that for this region to continue to be successful, that we need to have a very, very robust, dedicated, functional transit system. And yes, D.C., Maryland, Virginia have stepped up to the plate, but that contract, those terms are ready to expire. I think it was a 7-year agreement, $50 million each from the jurisdictions to match this on an annual basis to match the state, the $150 million from Congress. But we need more than that, and so it's a responsibility, I think, of the federal government to really help us with the dedicated funding.
All right, and just for our part, the jurisdiction is just my belief. We're always going to pay the brunt of the metro system. I do think that we need more commitment from the federal government, but we need a constant stream. So now when we fund Metro, the money that we send to Metro makes up about the 4th highest expenditure that the district has for any department. It's that critical to how we function. And so every year we're going to our council to talk about Metro. The district has been willing and will be able to find a way to dedicate a revenue stream for Metro. We can't do it alone, however. So we need each jurisdiction, and to talk about how the business community can be very helpful to that, is making sure. Now, we're situated differently than Maryland and Virginia in how we fund Metro. So it's a more straightforward conversation for me as a city, county, state that funds Metro. But we need that same commitment from all jurisdictions. It's more complicated. The business community can be very helpful, especially in the jurisdictions that have to compete downstate and upstate for funding in the northern part of the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Last word on this, County Executive.
Yeah, Mayor Bowser is absolutely right. I mean, the problem is the district, has, as a city-state, can make it straightforward decision on Metro, where Mayor Ewell and I have a problem is that while we get it in the Washington region why this is important, the other parts of the state aren't. They don't see the Metro as that vital to them. And so the business community can help us by really making, because the driving engine for both Virginia and for Maryland is really the Washington region is the economic driver. So making that pitch to the various Richmond and Annapolis, why it's so important, is where you're going to get, quite honestly, dedicated funding.
I'd like to give our panel a great big round of applause. Thank you, everybody.